Hey guys, it's Julian, and today I am super excited to be showing you how to make house music like Nicolas Jaar. So in this video, I'm going to be talking to you more about how to make some of his sort of more housey stuff. So as usual, you can get the project file and samples and MIDI and presets, all that kind of stuff from this video in the description. And if you're a patron on my Patreon, check there because it'll be available there shortly. And yeah, let's get started. So the first sound we have here is this little resonator thing, which sounds like this. So the way this is being made is basically I have these 3 different hi-hat samples. Those you can see if I turn off the resonator. And then what's happening is you can see I have it going into this resonator here. So I have those in a drum rack, and then I have the resonator after that. And so the resonator, as you can hear, is what's giving us that kind of like, you know, metallic sort of chord sound. So basically what's happening here is you can see I have this on the A mode. That's the one that sounds more like a chord. If you set it on B, it's a little bit too metallic for this vibe. But yeah, so I've got that on there, and then you can see I'm just going to tune to an F sharp minor chord. We have F sharp, and then the minor third, the fifth, and then another minor third. So yeah, it's pretty simple stuff here. The resonator is just a really good way to get like kind of a cool, sort of more alive metallic sort of sound. Like you can hear it has a very like lively feel to it. It doesn't just sound like, you know, just like a synth that is just going to sound the same every single time that you play the same note. So yeah, kind of a cool way to create some interesting sounds here. Definitely this is something I've heard in a lot of Nicolas Jaar's music. And you can use anything too. Like we can take like these percussion samples even and put those in there, and that'll work. But you can hear, like, you get a slightly different sound out of the resonator based on what you put into it. So yeah, after that, I just have a bit of echo. You can see I just have this doing dotted eighth notes. Pretty simple stuff there. We just have a bit of reverb after that as well. Just kind of, those 2 things are sort of teaming up there to give it some space. After that, we have a bit of saturation. You can see I've got the drive up pretty high, and then I've got the bass frequency up as well. Here's without this. And then with it, so you can hear it's just kind of fattening everything up and making it sound a bit stronger in the mix. And then the last thing we have on here is just the CQ8 cutting out the lawn. And that is it for the little resonator stabs. The next thing that we have here is this little Rhodesy E-piano kind of sound, which sounds like this. So here are the notes for this one. You can see it's basically just playing these chords, which are all different in versions of F sharp minor, actually. Well, really it's just playing 2 chords and then 2 single notes. So like, you can see that's just F sharp, the root of F sharp minor, and then A, which is the minor third of F sharp minor. And then this one, for example, you can see is A, the minor third of F sharp minor, C sharp, the fifth, and then, or F sharp, and then a C sharp up here. So it's basically just an F sharp minor, but I just took that middle note and put it down an octave. And then this one is, yeah, you can see that we have the A, C sharp, and then F sharp. So it's just kind of playing around with those chords. Like I said, we're in F sharp minor. That's the key we're in. You'll see when we get to the bass line and the kick and stuff. But I'm just kind of playing around with that chord and sort of like trying to do more interesting stuff with it. And this is just adding kind of like, you know, some extra kind of groove. We have a really straightforward bass line. So having something like that that's kind of bouncing around definitely helps to make it a little bit more interesting. Now for the sound on this one, I made this one actually using this EP faceplant. It's one of Ableton's things. It's under sounds. I believe it's under piano and keys. There we go. I took that. You know, it's just like a really solid sort of Rhodes sound. Any kind of like E-piano or a Rhodes or anything like that, like a Wurlitzer, will work for this kind of sound. But this is what I went for here. After that, I just have a bit of echo. You can see it's just doing dotted eighth notes. Here's without it. And then with it. So I felt like it kind of gives it some nice vibe, you know, gives it a more kind of like old school analog sort of feel, maybe a bit more organic. After that, we have a saturator. Here's without that. and then with it. So you can hear that's just adding a bit more kind of like fatness to it, I feel like. Like it's just kind of giving it a bit more strength in the mix and warming it up a little bit. After that, we just have a compressor side chaining into the kick. Pretty straightforward there. And then I have this EQ8 cutting out the low end, and it's also cutting a little bit around there because there were some kind of boxy frequencies. And that is it for the E piano or the Rhodes or whatever you want to call it. The next thing that we have here is the hi-hat, which sounds like this. So before I had all the hi-hats going into the Resonator, but this hi-hat is just playing straight. It's just playing on the upbeats. Really simple stuff. With this one, it's just more about the sound selection, you know. Choosing a sample like this that'll sit on top of the beat, but isn't going to be too loud. Like, you wouldn't want, like, a super huge, like, or, like, something super long like that. Just something kind of shorter and more minimal sounding. I feel like with the drums in Nicolas Jaar's music, especially his houseier kind of stuff, it's very, like, sort of minimal house influenced. So yeah, after that we have the percussion, which sounds like this. There it is with the rest of the drums, so you can kind of hear what's going on there. But yeah, so with this, I just have these two different percussion sounds. I have this one and this one, kind of like a higher one and then a deeper one. And then what's happening here is I have these kind of playing sort of like a bongo type of pattern. Like I was trying to give this that same kind of groove you would do with like some bongos or something like that, or maybe some timbales. But yeah, so I just have that, and then like I said, it's just the two samples in the drum rack. I have this going into a bit of echo, just doing some dotted eighth notes, and then I have an EQ8 cutting out the low end as well. There's a bit of low end in these samples. And that is it for the percussion. And then the next thing we have here is the clap, which is 2 layers, and it sounds like this. Basically, we got 2 layers here. We have this one and this one. So they're actually pretty simple, but the idea here are similar. But the idea here is that we're trying to layer these together kind of like hand claps. Like, you know, if you have hand claps, like a group of people clapping in a room, it's never just going to be exactly at the same time, right? Like, you're always going to have kind of like a little bit of a different sound. It's going to be not, you know, it's going to be a few different claps, like kind of like that, and then you hear that with multiple people doing it at once. So that's kind of the goal here. You can hear putting these together gives it this really lively sort of like hand clap type of feel. And then the other thing here is you can see I have this back a little bit. Like, yeah, you can see that is perfectly on the 2 and the 4. I have it back slightly, so it's kind of like, I'll show you how it's going off of the kick. So you kind of hear the clap come in like right before the kick, and it gives it a little bit more of an organic feel. So now I have all that percussion I just showed you in a group together. This kind of helps, you know, with like bussing and stuff like this. It really helps when you have like multiple sounds that are kind of in the same family. Like in this case, the percussion, or the next one I'm going to show you is the low end bus, like the kick and the bass, all the low end. It helps when you have these kind of similar families of sounds to put them in a group together and process them together, because it's going to make everything so much more cohesive sounding and so much more together sounding. And yeah, it just really helps to sort of tie everything together and make your mix sound that much cleaner. So I'll show you. Here's with no group processing. And then with it, so you can hear that's really bringing everything together, like I said. So the first thing we have here is this drum bus. Here's without it. And with it, that's probably the most important thing. You can see I've got the drive up. I have that on medium, and then I have the crunch up a little bit as well. This is really just fattening everything up and giving it a bit more texture and kind of strength in the mix. After that, we have an EQ8, just cutting out the low end. Pretty simple stuff, just kind of cleaning it up at the end of the chain. And that is it for the percussion bus. So the next thing we have here is the kick, which sounds like this. So basically, this is really simple. It's just this kind of smaller, tighter sort of kick. You can see I've shortened it a little bit. So yeah, and with this style, you definitely want to try to get kind of softer kicks like this. Like, again, just think like minimal house, like more kind of chill 808 kicks. You know, something like a super heavy, like a, like, or even like a super big EDM kick or anything like that. And it's just this chill little like 808 kick. Kind of shortened it a little bit. And yeah, after that we have a bit of drum bus. Here's without it. and with it. So you can hear that's just helping to kind of take it and fatten it up a little bit, give it a bit more strength in the mix. And I also had that tuner on there a second ago. So yeah, just making sure this is in tune, because we're in F sharp minor, and you definitely want to make sure, especially when you have an 808 kick, that you tune it to the key of the track. The next thing that we have here is the bass, which sounds like this. So what I was going for here, I'll show you the notes first, is like a very disco kind of like live style bass guitar type of sound. So with Nicolas Jaar's music, especially in a lot of his house music, he's very good at using like organic sounds, you know, like live instruments. Like in this case, like the Rhodes like I had before, or the Resonator with the percussion, or like in this case, like a bass, which is made with FM synthesis, but sounds kind of more like a live bass. So that's what I was going for here. And that's what this is. You can hear it's just doing like these kind of, again, like a very disco influenced kind of bass. It's sticking around the F sharp again. We're in F sharp minor. It's doing like that. And yeah, and another thing you can see with this is you can see none of the notes are touching each other. Like all of these here, I have them slightly cut at the end there so they're not touching each other. Here's what happens if I make it legato. You can hear it has a lot less groove than this. So if you want to get that kind of more like realistic live bass type of sound, I definitely recommend that. Have like a bass line like this, and then make sure none of the notes touch each other. So then for the sound on this one, like I said, I made it using Operator. And what this is it's just some simple FM. We just have 3 sine waves here. They're all in the same octave. Nothing too crazy. This is a really good method for getting more of like a bass guitar kind of sound, like I was saying. Like basically here's just like a sine wave. And you can hear as we bring in each oscillator, it gives you still that super deep, sebby kind of sound like you're getting from just a sine wave. But then you also have a little bit more harmonic content on top of it. So it kind of gives it more of that like live bass type of sound. After that, I just have a bit of saturation. Here's without it. And then with it, you can hear it's just fattening the bass up a little bit and making it sound warmer and a bit more like a live bass. And then the last thing we have on there is just a compressor side chaining into the kick. And that is it for the bass. So then, like I said, I've got the low end, basically the kick and the bass in a bus here, and I'm just processing them together to make everything more cohesive. And again, just make the overall mix sound cleaner because all the similar elements are going to be very tight and together sounding. So the first thing we have on here is this EQ8. I'll show you. Here's with no group processing. You can hear it's kind of weak sounding, and then with the EQ8. So already this is helping to make them sound more cohesive because it's just doing a lot of things. I mean, it's doing 3 things, but that's a lot by EQing standards. So you can see I have this low end boost first and foremost. So that's just kind of giving more of like a low end kind of presence there, you know, bringing it up and making it a bit stronger. Then I have this cut here, kind of cutting out like those boxy frequencies and kind of getting rid of some mud. And then we have a high end boost to kind of help with like the sort of the warmth in the bass and the click in the kick. So again, here's without it and with it. And even though this isn't doing anything like saturating things together or like, I don't know, just doing any of that kind of stuff like you would think would be the things that would make things tighter sounding, this is still very important for the overall sound of the line because you're doing such a sharp sort of like shaping thing here on both of these elements at the same time. And so even just by doing that, it makes everything sound a lot more cohesive. Like, listen to, even if I, like, here's the whole track right now. Now listen to how much more cohesive it sounds if I copy that onto the master. You know, doing stuff like that, even though it's, again, it's not doing any, like, saturation or anything like that, definitely helps to kind of make these more cohesive. And then the last thing we have on here is just a bit of drum bus. Here's without it. And then with it. So you can hear that really helps to fatten up the kick and the bass, and it's doing that last little bit of kind of pulling them together and making them sound more together. So yeah, so that is going to be it for this one, guys. Thank you very much. As always, make sure to like this video as well as subscribe, and let me know what you think of this video in the comments. Let me know who you want to see me do a video on next. As always, you can get the project file and samples and MIDI and presets and all of that kind of stuff in this video in the description. And if you're a patron on my Patreon, check there because they'll be available shortly. Thank you so much, everybody, and I will see you tomorrow with another video.